several mistakes where I had a spidey sense, but I still brought someone on because I was so excited, and then they didn't work out, and I still had a spidey sense, and I'm like, no, I don't know any better. Let's say you join Yoodli and we were to fail in 6 months. For any reason, bad management decisions, tough market, we run out of money, whatever. What would have to be true for you to say, oh my God, this was the best professional experience of my life? How many times have you used Yoodli? And they'll say, well, I'm yet to create an account. To which my response is, but I thought you loved it. What happened? Here's our cap table. Here are the cap table mistakes I've made. Here's what our option pool looks like. Here's how much we had budgeted for this role. Here's why we are coming at this amount. Here's how much Isha and I make.
Welcome to Whispered Hiring, the podcast where we talk with senior leaders about how they find, vet, attract, and grow go-to-market talent. I'm Andy Mowat, founder of Whispered. Today I'm joined by Varun Puri, CEO of Yoodli. Yoodli has raised over $60 million with an A and a B back-to-back. It is innovating on AI role play for GTM use cases, for interviewing use cases, which we'll dive in today. And I've taken a couple walks with Varun when I'm in Seattle. I really enjoy how he thinks about things. He's really candid about, what is it like being a first-time founder, and we just talked a minute ago, first-time manager as well too. So Varun, maybe the first question just is like, you are a first-time founder. It's the first time hiring C-level execs. What's been the biggest surprise for you in this whole process?
First off, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I don't know if there's a good answer or not, but in the early days of hiring very senior folks, I would second guess myself because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to think about comp and quota, and they've run a 500-person org, and what do I know about management? And in that process, I think I've made mistakes because I've gotten excited about the resume or what folks have said on LinkedIn. The biggest surprise has been to trust my intuition a lot more than I did even earlier.
I love that. Yeah, and honestly, like, how do you get over that? So was there a mentor or a guide or an advisor or a board member that just kind of gave you that trust? Or did you make some mistake by not trusting your intuition? Or how did you get to that point?
It's interesting. It's, I think, two things. One, several mistakes where I had a spidey sense, but I still brought someone on because I was so excited, and then they didn't work out, and I still had a spidey sense, and I'm like, no, I don't know any better. Maybe we should do this different framework. And 3 months in, that's when you fully know. And the second is my co-founder. Isha and I are in the same boat. We've started Yoodli together. We are beyond close to each other, and we put a mirror in front of each other's faces all the time. Very recently, Isha was like, Varun, we are building this company. We trust our gut. We're going to get some decisions wrong, but we've got to be true to ourselves. So she really helps there.
I think that is important in life, right? Like, there are times when I'm just like, I'm moving forward and I'm making decisions and not second guessing. And then there are other times when I'm second guessing. I think it gets hard if you hit a bump in the road in the growth and you start second guessing again. But especially in these startups at this stage, there is no second guessing, and you got to just go with what makes sense. Maybe could you just explain to people, you guys are a AI role play tool for GTM, but you're also an AI role play tool for interviews. I think you were explaining to me before we hit record how you actually ask candidates to interact with that. Could you take a couple minutes just to walk that through? That'd be fascinating for people.
Yeah,
and also your take on how candidates should be using AI role plays and where that's going could be really interesting.
Yep. 30-second overview on Yoodli is AI role play simulator. Bread and butter is role plays for GTM enablement and partner certification. So the basics of cold calling, objection handling, multi-persona conversations, all the way to demo certification and rolling out new kinds of value props, tool certification, etc. One of my beliefs is too many tools are siloed within different parts of the organization. Someone will come and say, we only sell to GTM, or we do HRIS tech. My belief is role plays help all of us communicate with confidence. Communication is a critical part of any job. AESE, CSM, manager, frontline seller, doesn't matter. So we typically start with role plays for the entire GTM org, and then people take us to different parts of the org, which is, oh my God, I'm a manager and I have a difficult conversation. I'm an executive, I'm speaking to a media representative. I'm an interviewer at Google. I need to be certified on how to tell the Google story to candidates. So that's a platform. In terms of candidate interview prep, we had actually started as an AI public speaking and interview prep tool. So we found our way into the enterprise the reverse way. One of the things I'm very passionate about is anyone who is at Yoodli needs to know the customer, know their problem, and be obsessed with the product. That's just 101. Be obsessed with the product, not the idea of the product. I think a lot of people find the pitch compelling, but when I'm on a call with them, I'll be like, what do you think? And they'll say, Varun, I love Yoodli. And then my response is, great, how many times have you used Yoodli? And they'll say, well, I'm yet to create an account. To which my response is, but I thought you loved it. What happened? Or worse, they'll be like, yeah, I've been using Yoodli all the time. And I'll pull up the dashboard and I'm like, but I saw you logged in like 2 times total. What does all the time mean? So I try to push people on, how much have you used the platform? What does true love mean? It doesn't work for everyone. Back to your question, the way we ask folks to prep for a Yoodli interview is we give all of our candidates access to the Yoodli test environment, where we've created a bunch of mock interviews with a Varun persona, with an Isha persona, mimicking our style, our intensity, our types of questions, etc. And candidates can go and ask any question to the Varun AI. Why did you start Yoodli? What do you care about? What's the story behind the name Yoodli? How much have you raised? I cannot access any of this data. Of course, everything the candidate is doing is truly private. It's judgment-free. It belongs to them. But the idea is, hopefully, this helps set them up for success when they are chatting with us. And the conversation is a lot more fun for them because they've done all the baseline, like why did you start the company and what's your vision, with the AI version, where they can come to the human version and have a much deeper conversation. This does not work for everyone. For the folks it does, though. They come and they're like, before we even start, here are 50 product feedback areas. Here's what your avatar got wrong. And I'm like, amazing.
I love the product feedback. You said it was a little bit polarizing as well, too. Tell me how.
Of course, if I'm a senior executive and you're telling me to use the product before chatting with you, like, that's a little arrogant. That's a little off-putting. Do you not value my time? It's not how things are typically done. I think we are really pushing our product upon people. There are concerns about privacy. Yoodli truly was built as a private, judgment-free space for you to practice without anyone knowing. It's your smart mirror. But a lot of people are like, oh my God, if I do a really bad interview with Yoodli AI, are the founders going to be looking at it and evaluating me in the background? And our answer is, of course, no, but there are trust things that people have to get over. So it's tricky.
Now, do you know when you interview somebody how many times they've talked to Yoodli?
No, the interview portal is completely private. It's the same as any enterprise instance. We do not have access. It is completely theirs. We'll ask them on the call. It's really an experiment, by the way. I'm curious to see if we can unlock this new market called candidate enablement, right? Yeah. Everyone's doing customer enablement and partner enablement, but I'm like, imagine if Google, who's hiring thousands and thousands of people a year, can help candidates prep better for their interviews. Everyone's time is better spent. And I got this idea because many of the world's largest interview training companies, LHH, which is part of a Deco group, Korn Ferry, that does a lot of outplacement, uses Yoodli as their interview prep tool. And I'm like, can that be an insight for us to create a new category? TBD on candidate enablement.
I like that. You've probably seen things like Delphi, which are like the digital mind, and they've trained, and I used one of those early. How much of Varun's mind is in there versus just the persona of Varun that we've pulled off the internet?
Yeah, Yoodli is not a digital twin. We are not Delphi. Yoodli is meant to mimic my persona in a certain conversation, right? At the core, you go in, you put in your ICP's persona, you come up with learning goals, use BANT, use MEDIC, use GROW, use STAR, whatever that might be. And then you are evaluated relative to that. So Yoodli is not meant to replace me. Yoodli is not meant to take the human job. Yoodli is meant to help the human be the best version of themselves by practicing in private.
I like that. Last question on this. I'm sure we could spend 2 hours just on the what the vision of the future will look like with AI roleplay. You mentioned a couple questions that they could ask it, right? Like, why did you start it? What's the name about? Those are lazy questions to me. Those are not like deeply thoughtful questions. They haven't done their research. Like, do you judge people differently because you've given them the opportunity to ask the lazy questions to the AI?
I wish I could say the answer was no, I'm human. If I get in an interview with someone and they ask me, so how much have you raised? I'm like, come on, we're in an interview that's on the front page of our website. You could have seen this there. We've literally given you an interview portal to get over all of these answers with. So obviously I will answer it. I try to be really kind, but part of my head is, hey, let's use this time to get into the really spicy stuff. Like, why is Yoodli going to fail? And how do you think about the current competitive landscape? And by the way, what happened to those 3 people on your team and how are their jobs going to change with AI? And I'm like, wow, that's really hard.
I like that. So shifting gears to kind of the interview process. I'm actually, since we're on this topic, I'll go through it. But I always coach people, take control of the interview process. I'll show up and I'll say, hey, Varun, I got a couple questions for you, but I know you're the interviewer, so go ahead and ask me. 90% of people are like, no, that's okay. And I would do the same. I'm going to learn more about you by your questions. How do you approach interviews? Or do you have a favorite question, favorite process? Are you trying to have them own the interview? Or are you just drilling in? How do you think about this?
Great question. Three parts to that. One, my favorite question always is, listen, I'm a first-time founder. I'm a first-time manager. God knows where this Yoodli journey goes. You're going to be taking a really big bet on us. Let's say you join Yoodli and we were to fail in 6 months for any reason, bad management decisions, tough market, we run out of money, whatever. What would have to be true for you to say, oh my God, this was the best professional experience of my life? I love that question because it helps me unpack why someone is coming to the company or how they think about failure or what truly matters to them outside of typical success metrics. And learning more broadly where, oh my God, if we can fail together and have a great relationship and want to do this again, that's a proud moment. So that's my favorite question. To your second piece, I love when a candidate takes control of the conversation.
Yeah.
It's more fun for me. I mean, these are GTM people, so I'm looking for them to come and run this thing, right? This is how they're going to run the show with a prospect as well. So no brainer. And I love when a candidate pushes me on questions that I haven't thought about, or is like, hey, by the way, here's the process that I'm running. You let me know what you think. And I'm like, heck yes. I want you to join Yoodli even more. How do I sell to you?
I like that. I'm going to just keep going with my questions because I'm not going into the normal order I do, but it's fun. How do you think about it with negotiation with candidates? It's, I don't want to bias on this because I've chatted with a lot of interesting people, but can they negotiate too much? How do you think about that side of things?
First, I think when you negotiate with someone, your personality comes out because it's the first time you're having a really hard conversation, and you can tell, are they on the other side of the table or are they coming and sitting next to you? My approach, and hopefully any candidate who's been through the Yoodli process will say this, is to be 100% transparent.
Yes.
What this means is, here's our cap table, here are the cap table mistakes I've made, here's what our option pool looks like, here's how much we had budgeted for this role, here's why we are coming at this amount, here's how much Isha and I make, and by the way, you would be making this much more than us. Of course, we are happy to do that, but here's where the general company is. And I think in doing that, they understand our ethos, and the conversation becomes a lot more about how, not if. So for instance, we might have a candidate who's got, a mortgage, several kids, they're tight on cash, and they're like, but I believe in Yoodli, but I also see why you can't give me a particular package. Listen, Varun, let's put all of that in the variable and let's set really, really bold goals. And I'm like, heck yeah. And I promise you, I will close 2 deals to land to that number. It just becomes a lot more fun of us working together.
Yeah, I like that. How do you think about you in founder mode, right? What is your perspective on that one? It's and because you talked a little bit earlier of I'm first time founder, first time manager. You could be. How do candidates perceive that of you, right? I think there are a lot of people that are willing to take that chance, but a lot of people have also been burned by founders that are too hyper control, too in the weeds. But you also talked before we recorded of no, I need to be able to go down deep and stuff like that. it can be both the blessing and a curse, founder mode. So how do you must have thought about that.
100%. So first, I have all of the shortcomings of founder mode. I think every founder fits a bill, right? Like shiny object syndrome. We get excited by a new idea every day. We wear our emotions on our sleeve. Giving up control is hard. Extremely competitive. No sense of work-life balance. I think every founder has some version of this. What I'm looking for is I want to work with people who are better than me and who can make me a better person personally and professionally. And a lot of the folks who've joined Yoodli in a leadership role, they've done this rodeo multiple times. Like Josh ran a lot of sales and CS at Tableau. Andy was CFO at Remitly. Derek was a senior leader at Microsoft. So when they come on board or when we are interviewing, I'm like, look, here's where I really, really struggle. And I'm hoping you can teach me. And I'm hoping you can help me grow through this journey because you've seen so much more. And through the interview process, I can very clearly tell who I'm excited to get coached by. Or you can really tell how they handle certain intensity where they're like, Varun, your expectations for this role are totally off. But let's talk about how to do this the right way. And I really appreciate that kind of dialogue as opposed to someone who's only pushing me or only saying yes. And obviously, I have a long way to go and I'm working on improving all of the founder mode shortcomings as well.
So Josh is a great example, right? You hired a very impressive person to run sales. He's stepping into your whole speech of like, hey, if we fail miserably in 6 months, he probably has a family. He's juggling lots of other things. Like, what was that dating like to be able to do that? Like, what are the questions that you think, how do you evaluate them from a founder perspective? And then what questions do you think somebody's asking if they are about to join a founder mode, right? Like it's an exciting time, what you guys are doing, but it's also like many founders have gone off the rails in the wrong ways in some companies and some careers, right? Like it's interesting.
I'm super nervous about that as well, right? I'm like, oh my God, am I making mistakes? Am I asking other people to walk off a cliff with me? I'll answer this in two ways. One, what I look for in interviews and how I approach that process. And then I can talk more about the process with Josh. And he'll get a laugh when he looks at this. What I look for is our values. And our company values are very much Isha and my values in some ways as well. It's number one is humility. You just show up with kindness, with authenticity, with vulnerability. You can be intense and ambitious and all of that, but just be kind, be humble. And these are the values like many of us grew up with, right? But then life happened and a breakup happened and jealousy happened and someone else got a promotion and we lost some of that. The second is bias for action. You're here to win. I value speed over a lot of things. So one of our values under bias for action is velocity, but with judgment. And the last is winning together. You're not here to win on your own. We're going to do the Yoodli piece together. So in interviews, I will always, not just in interviews, even with prospects for sales, I will always start with our why. Right? I started Yoodli because I think there are so many smart people who miss out on opportunities because they don't back themselves while speaking. It's the kid in India, it's the introvert, the immigrant, the non-native English speaker, all of who might have missed a promotion, a job, a date. They had a stutter, they were nervous, they were practicing, the night before in front of a mirror, camera, stopwatch. Let's go help them out. And yeah, we're doing the sales enablement and the manager training, role plays, and all of that is part of it, but there's a much, much, much bigger why. Do you believe that? And I think you can very quickly tell if people gravitate towards that. In most cases, people will be like, yeah, I know someone who's on the spectrum and I've been working with them, or my kid has a stutter, or let me tell you about my first interview. I practiced 200,000 times, or I took this one medicine before I was going on stage, or I was a founder like you, but I didn't raise money because I didn't play the game. I wish I had Yoodli. And that automatically breaks the ice. But if their default is yeah, I can see how we can make a lot of money selling this, and yeah, we can, but I don't know if that's the first thing that drives me in terms of a candidate. I don't know. I rambled. Is that helpful?
No, that was great. I have 4 follow-up questions, but maybe first talk about the Josh. When did you know Josh was starting to be a person that would make sense? Because you probably met a lot of other potential heads of sales. What stood out from Josh?
So many things. So we were looking for an independent board member, and Mark Nelson, CEO of Tableau, is a mentor, and he was like, just chat with Josh. So that's how the conversation started. I knew Josh was a big dog, ran a lot of sales and CS at Tableau, was a leader at Salesforce, has run hundreds and hundreds of people teams, developed many careers. Fun fact, his references were some of the biggest leaders I read about in the news. So I was calling them and being like, hi, tell me about a time that Josh failed. And then they laughed. Things that really stood out to me with Josh. One, I was like, for no reason, I was like, Josh, this role is not CRO, it's a head of sales role. Why? Because I think we're too small to be bringing on a CRO, but that's where we want to be.
Right. Like I need sales figured out, not marketing figured out, right? Yeah.
And he's like, sure. Sure, we'll forget the title stuff, we'll figure it out. Josh's questions to me were fantastic. They were about how I think about the B2C play with the B2B play, and how that vision coincides with one another. How I see my career growing at Yoodli and where my shortcomings are. We made a doc, which were Varun's expectations, Josh's expectations, and open items. And literally we had 500, right? One of mine was, can you get in the weeds? Like, you've had layers and layers under you. One of his was, how coachable are you? The next one was, how do we think about comp? How do we think about equity? And we literally went through every item together.
You guys like co-founder dated effectively rather than hired him. Yeah.
But of course, I mean, this is a co-founder. Like, Josh very clearly said when he joined, I'm like, Josh, why are you joining Yoodli? You can go do anything you want. And he was like, I want to build the company that I lead, right? I want to find my people and grow this. And I'm like, heck, help me do this, Josh. And then I spoke to people who had reported to him. I spoke to people who had worked with him, and the vibe across the board was just a really good person. Like, he does right by his people. And even during us getting to know each other, there was so much good faith stuff flying around, and that can backfire in so many ways. But I think he knew that my heart's in the right place. I knew that Josh was going to try his best, and we had little to lose then. I had little to lose. He had a lot more, his reputation and whatnot.
Yes. But you guys are literally, I actually went to the Tableau office. It's next to the dump up in Seattle, and he moved to a much nicer spot where you guys are at. So that's good.
I do hope the other interesting thing is people often say, who are your role models as founders? I think a really interesting question is, who are role model companies for you? For me, it's Tableau. In every way. I mean, Tableau had this incredible PLG motion. They had customer love in their, their big Tableau conferences are like rock concerts. The people who worked at Tableau are just so fun and kind, and they just built this community around that company where I was like, crap, I want to be like Tableau. And Mark Nelson epitomized some of that. So meeting Josh and meeting the rest of the Tableau mafia made me be like, how do I find more people at Tableau?
I love that. There's those points in time with culture where companies are growing. I think a lot of it too does come down to, Tableau has built a great culture, but a lot of it comes down to winning, right? I heard somebody say values are not that important. It's all about, are you winning? And if you're winning, things feel good. If you're not winning, they don't feel good. But they definitely got a lot to love. And I do love user love matters. I remember when I joined Culture Amp, I looked at the NPS and it was 74. And I'm like, oh, wow. There is a lot of brand equity in that as well, too. You said velocity over judgment.
No, velocity with judgment.
Oh, velocity with judgment. Okay, I was really interested to talk about velocity. Okay, we always talked about the even over, right? If you have velocity and you have judgment, and you have to pick one, which one is even over which one, right? And so it sounds like you would I guess it's velocity with judgment's important. It's always nice, right? Do it fast and do it smart. But how do you think about when you have to do an even over?
Look, I think this is, again, where your leadership team is important. My default as personality with life is velocity all the way. I will do things, do them wrong, break things. It doesn't matter. Just do it wrong 99 times and do it quickly. But I think now I've got a leadership team who's like, no, Varun, the decisions we make have consequences. So there's a really good balance where if I'm more towards velocity, someone else might be towards judgment, and we're trying to marry that together. And I've realized running around, chasing my own tail, especially with the CEO title, causes chaos for everyone in the org. And I've had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. There's power to it, and there's chaos as well too. How do you work? You've raised from some great investors. How do you work with your investors on hiring?
Great question. First off sheet references.
Yeah.
Anyone who we hire, no matter how junior or senior, we'll go off sheet. We'll give them a heads up that we're doing that, but that investors can really help there. We'll bring them in if we need to close a candidate. For the sale, I will pull the, hey, this is my dream candidate if I need to go above on comp and get board approvals. And our board is very, very supportive.
Interesting. I like that a lot. It's the off reference. Maybe dive a little bit deeper into that. The off back. We always call them like backdoor references or that. But like, what is your approach there? Like, are you doing it early or are you doing it late in process?
It's a good question. I do it as soon as I have an inkling that I might be falling in love.
Nick Mehta had the best quote: "Do it before I fall in love."
Oh,
Was his tactic? I guess what I've learned from talking to 50 rockstar C-level leaders is people do it earlier than I anticipated before we started this podcast, which is surprising to me. I find some people do it like before I even talk to them, right? And so you're right. I think you nailed that. Like right when I think I might be falling in love is.
It's also, again, like Nick has obviously done this a lot longer than I have, but it's also how easy is the off-sheet reference? If they're connected to my best friend and I'm about to get on an interview with them, heck, I will get all of this scoop ahead of time. If the off-sheet requires a little bit of effort, then I might say, let me first meet the person. But especially in tech, especially in Seattle, especially with the venture community, everyone knows everyone. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I appreciate is if candidates or Isha and me as well just come with everything on the table. Hey, I was at this company for 3 months. Here's why. I really botched it. These things didn't work and I'm happy to own them. Or here are my shortcomings. Then great. If the off-sheet validates that, that's not a bad sign because I can have a much richer discussion with the candidate.
Yes, absolutely. How do you source you say everyone knows everybody, but how do you find that? What are the ways you do to go do the off-sheet references?
Let's say we're doing off-sheet for Andy, though Andy has much better things to do than work at Yoodli. I would find second-degree connections on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Find people who know the second degree and then ask them. Ideally, you've been senior enough. You were at Culture Ramp. I would try to get one of our VCs to connect me with VC at Culture Ramp so that I can speak to the founder. I think the founder-to-founder code goes very, very, very far. Where you can ask the real stuff like, is this an exec or is this someone who actually does the work? How do they clash with you as a founder? How did you think about comp when you brought them on, etc.? And they're like, well, here are the 3 red flags to really look to be careful about. That helps.
That's interesting. I never had asked that before, which is the level at which you're referencing people. Like I oftentimes will call high and call low. I like sometimes one thing I've heard, which I thought was really valuable, is some execs can come across as one thing to upward people and another thing to downward people. And so you don't want those people that are effectively two-faced. And so I've always referenced above and below, but I'd never thought you may be even shooting higher, right? So like Culture Amp, I was one level, I would report to the CRO rather than the CEO. He would know me, have plenty of things to say. But sometimes the CEO is a little bit more distant to be able to do that. But at the same time, your point is a really interesting one, which is the founder to founder, like maybe they'll be a little freer.
Yeah, but it also depends on stage, right? Like Culture Amp is much bigger than Yoodli. I wouldn't expect, like the founder there is much busier than me. They would likely be like, listen, A+ higher, but go talk to CRO for more details.
Yeah.
So they would likely pass me down, but wherever I can hear directly from founder, that's gold.
I like that. Maybe let's talk about, everyone's trying to hire builders now, right? Like first, are you trying to hire builders too, or how do you think about that?
Yes, right. Quintessential builder, someone who fits a GTM engineer type persona. They can build a bunch of agents. They aren't hiring nonstop. By the time they've finished their sentence, they've already got a prototype built. Of course, that is every founder's dream. Like we are doers, we get in the weeds. That's my default, but now I'm also starting to look for leaders. Like who can have the conversation with AEs who are unhappy about quota, and when quotas go up, how do you still inspire them and build trust with them? And how do you teach the team executive selling when we're doing the enterprise sales stuff and build a team of AEs and CSMs and SEs who work together? I think that's a very different persona that I'm only coming to appreciate now that we've crossed 50 people.
That is such a powerful statement. I think it's so right? Like I think a large chunk of tech has maybe oversteered towards that. Like I talk to a CEO or a CRO a day, which is like, I just need to hire a builder that can get in and there's a direct correlation between age and the builder ability, and I just need somebody that's there. And I talked to somebody the other day, and they miss out on pattern recognition, maturity, communication, cross-functional collaboration, and all of that. It's interesting to see how you've started to understand the importance of both, I guess, in essence. Or how do you, I guess the dream now is a builder that is sympathetic and mature, or how do you think about that?
So it's also recognizing where my gaps are and where I need help. Like I am obsessed with the product and our customer. I get joy not coming up with company OKRs and comp plans and figuring out like board decks. I get excited in talking to my users and being like, what's not working? Let's fix this. Have you pressed this button? Which is why I need folks around me who can ground me in the company stuff, who can help with operationalizing what we're doing, who can call me out when I'm being impulsive and sending 10 Slacks that all 50 people have to look at and there's just like sand in the gears. So I'm, as much as I love bringing on more Varuns, one, I would clash with them. Second, they're at a very different career stage, likely mine, so not as experienced. I'm looking to learn and I'm looking to build like the most holistic company possible.
I like that. Three kind of statements I'll give around builders. I'm curious, like which one's the most important to you? Doing more with less, the ability to fly high and fly low, or like fundamentally just build stuff.
3-1-2. Like the high low just sounds like politics. How do you manage up, manage down? I'm not interested in that. That sounds like a Google level thing.
I like that.
Do what it takes to build stuff. Sometimes it might be recognizing that you can't do it and you need to get the RevOps person. Great, but just get it done. And ideally, if you can get it done yourself, the brownie points. But recognizing that not everyone is Leonardo da Vinci, Renaissance man. Where do we complement each other?
That's a really well said on the fly low, fly high. I think it's almost a bigger company type of game, right? Because if you guys are 50 people, everyone needs to fly low and also be able to do.
I also, and maybe this is naive, I don't think there is a high. Like we're a tiny company. What does fly high mean? I'm not like an unapproachable CEO who's got admins that you need to schedule through. That concept doesn't exist at Yoodli, not yet at least, and I hope never.
You're selling to some of the biggest enterprises out there. You've walked me through some of the logos. How do you think about like the maturity to put somebody of when you're hiring people? What's the level of maturity you need to have that you can put these people in front of them, whether they're product, whether they're sales, whether they're partnership leaders? Like, how do you think about like, I'm not selling to a B2C audience, I'm selling to an enterprise audience?
Great question. And my answer is evolving. Today, it depends on the role. So if I'm a product guy, I can be that young, scrappy, hungry person who gets on a call and is like, here were the 5 requests you had, boom, 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 boom. Here are the features and here are the 5 things coming. And like people are like, oh my God, right? It's just boom, like move really quickly. But our buyers are SAP, Salesforce, Snowflake, Databricks, Google, like large enterprises. If we are talking CRO who's talking to the CRO of these companies, it's got to be someone who's likely already connected to them and knows the game and knows where procurement's going to push back and how we think about the multi-year contract and what we do when we give a discount. The discount is never a one-off thing. It's a line item where you cross it out so that at the renewal, you're not in trouble. Like that's part of the game that I think you only get with battle scars.
I think so. Yeah. So it becomes, so can you get those people? You talked about like, I think before we hit record, you said like, I need people that are not thinking about ramp, not thinking about enablement, not thinking about all the infrastructure that they're going to have. What's the profile of those people that you're finding that are willing to go in early, but that also can deal with enterprise? Like, have you found a profile from where you hire those people from?
I think it's people who are really curious. They've done the enterprise stuff and they know how to win. They're eager to get their hands dirty with the early stage stuff. They acknowledge that they don't know all of this and will need help. And they want to learn. They are coming to a place like Yoodli because they are so excited to learn and grow themselves, no matter how senior they are. And I think those are the kinds of people I vibe with the best because I'm like, oh my God, you're going to teach me stuff. And they're like, no, Varun, you're also going to teach me stuff. And I'm like, wait, what? And that's a really special combination when you find it.
I like that. Are there bad questions or good questions that candidates ask you that have kind of Well, you said that you love when candidates take over control of the interview, but what are great questions you've had asked and any bad ones?
I'll start with the bad ones. I think extremely obvious ones, but I'm like, come on, you're just asking me for the sake of asking me. Cop out answers to where you struggle. I'm too perfect. I do things too quickly, whatever. I'm like, no, I actually want to get to know you. When we talk about areas of improvement, not leading with why. To me, that's really important. Why do you care about joining a startup this early? Why does Yoodli resonate with you? Questions that are strong are pushing me on my vision. They'd be like, what are missteps you've already made? What are you working on with your executive coach? How do you see your role evolving as the company changes? And I find that really interesting because clearly this person is coming on as a thought partner for my weaknesses, not despite them.
I like that a lot. By the way, I had a question a lot of people use is why this company, why this role, why now? And I think that one kind of gets a lot, and a lot of people can't answer that. They'd be like, oh, and they struggle a little bit there.
I mean, that's with any deal as well, right? Like, this is corporate visions, sale, why change, why now? I forgot the last one. But you got to be able to answer those questions for anything in life.
I think so. Another one I always do when I'm meeting with anybody is I always put down, I always ask people, and you probably do too, like, how can I help you, right? And people, I always come with that answer to that question when I'm talking to most people. Not today on this, but generally, yes.
Yeah, of course.
How do you know if someone's going to be a great hire, or that you should like pull the ripcord?
Before the fact, I don't. If I give someone an offer, it's likely because I've fallen in love with them.
Yep.
You find out early if the excuses start. I didn't have access to my computer. I'm waiting to hire this person. I was blocked on engineering. And that's really hard. As when you have that realization on day 2, you're just like, oh, crap, what do I do? And one of the things I'm working on is not completely losing faith in the person and saying, great, how do we work on this together? But unfortunately, when you know that feeling, it's very, very, very difficult to course correct.
I like that. Do you have any tactics on how you invest in somebody in those first couple weeks?
Again, mistakes I've made, feedback I've gotten is you throw people off the deep end, you don't set them up for success. You set the expectation so high that no matter what, it's bound to be a hard few weeks. So things I'm working on is giving them space when they start, helping them get early wins and being part of those wins with them, celebrating those wins, being very, very clear about expectations. Week 1, you have got to know the product. Like, that is the most important thing. You have to do your Yoodli product certification and absolutely crush it. If I see them going off the rails, I give feedback very quickly in terms of like, hey, we were in that meeting, you said a bunch of stuff, but I don't know what you were actually trying to get at. Was it because you wanted your presence to be felt, or was it because you weren't actually sure? And seeing the way people react to early feedback also tells me how we'll work together. My style is to be completely candid. It doesn't always work, but I think that helps.
I like that. Have you written your own user manual yet? Or is this interview is part of it as well too, right?
No, I have actually. And I give that user manual to candidates. So with Josh, we talked about this. Up front on that table, I'll have, here are my pet peeves. For instance, I hate when someone explains something to me in 5 sentences. Just tell me in 1 sentence, Varun, you did this upset me. I'm like, great, I'm so sorry. And then the candidate gives their pet peeves and their user manual up front as well.
I like that. I always give my user manual. The tactic I have for onboarding new people is I have for people that are direct reports, a standing half hour every day for the first 4 weeks. And it sounds intense, but at about week 1 to 2, if you've made a good hire. Because the goal is, I'm not running that. I'm not telling you what's there. You need to own that one-on-one, and you need to tell me what you're observing, what you're learning, what's not making sense, what needs to be improved. And by the end of that, I always say you give me 3 one-on-ones with somebody. And so now I've just got to the place where like, I'm here to support you in anything, like questions, things that don't make sense. Like if your computer's not working, like we can solve that right now. And then so like, for me that like, if I have a direct hire, it's a daily, and by the way, if you listen to like the 50 we've recorded so far, that is by far the number one tactic out there for people. Like just daily on an executive hire until they are tracking well, because you want to be like, what's the question that they don't feel like they can ask you? They can't find you. You're busy. And so like I make it my 100% responsibility to be there for that person, but also to have them manage up to me every single day until I'm like, I can, and at the end of that, we're either there or not. And then the only other tactic I would say is I always give the speech of, when we move to a new city, we're going to try a new restaurant every day for a while. And at about day 90, our relationship is what it is. And so if our relationship is what it is at day 90, that's your fault, not mine. Like you got a chance to change it. So those are kind of my two approaches.
That's interesting. I'm learning this as well. Going back to your earlier point, I think one of the things I really appreciate is when they call me out, when they give me early feedback to help me course correct. Because again, I'm bound to make a bunch of mistakes, but I think I can be more explicit on having even more regular communication than we do right now.
I think it can be hard for somebody to start that relationship where they give people feedback, right? Like some people that are amazing people may be intimidated to give that. And so if you can create that space for people, it may be powerful in that regard.
Totally.
That's great. Well, wrapping up, is there anybody you've learned about hiring from, in this whole process, or has it just been by let me throw myself in off the deep end?
I have a few mentors from Google who left Google, and I would call them for just gut checks, and they would not know the candidate, but when I'd be talking to them, they're like, "No, Varun, you're not that excited." And I think this is the same as you go on a date and you come back and you're talking to your best friend. You're like, "Oh my God, it was this, it was that." They're like, "Yep, you don't like them." So one of the things I've learned is speak to people who know me really well and can call out my uncertainty or call out when I'm being unreasonable and letting my biases creep in. So I try to do that more and more. For me, that person especially is Isha.
That is amazing.
Right, because Isha will be like, "Oh, right, you're thinking this way because you think they're like that other person who didn't work out. But Varun, they gave you nothing to indicate that. Like, this is your bias creeping." And I'm like, "Oh, shoot, you're right."
Or you could talk to an AI, one of the two.
Right, true.
Well, Varun, thank you for the time, man. It's been great getting to know you. I'm excited for our next coffee in Seattle and to share these insights with people. I think it's really valuable for people to hear from both people that have been doing it for 40 years and then for people that are figuring out and on the rocket ship right now.
No, thank you so much. I mean, big fan of yours. Some of the folks who've been on this podcast are obviously inspiring leaders. So it's such an honor to even be part of this podcast.
Thank you. We'll talk soon and have a great day.
Thank you, sir.